Brigance Inventory of Early Development 2. And the purpose of this test is to identify students' present level of performance and monitor progress. So the Brigance Inventory of Early Development 2 makes it easy for educators to assess the strengths and needs of students functioning below the development age of 7. So you're going to do this with kids that are 7 and under. What it's going to do is going to diagnose delays and disabilities, giftedness and other exceptionalities. It's going to determine the present level of performance. It's going to help you develop goals and objectives for the IEPs and guide instructional planning. It's going to monitor students' progress, produce age equivalents, percentiles, and quotients, and it's going to support alternate assessments needed. So it's going to help you kind of form the IEP, see where the student's at, and kind of see where you can go from there. So this inventory really looks at 5 different areas. It's going to assess the physical development of preambulatory, gross, and fine motor skills. It's going to look at language development, receptive and expressive. It's going to look at academic cognitive, which is going to be literacy and mathematical concepts. Then it's going to also assess how the students can do their daily living and how they're socially and emotionally developing. 5 different things that you really need when you're doing this inventory. So you're going to need the inventory of early development 2. This is the actual test booklet. So this is going to have all of your information, all of your questions, everything you're testing is going to be in this book right here. Then you're going to need the record book. So this is where you keep all of your observations, all of your information about the student that's going to help you assess the student. You're also going to need a pencil, and then you're going to need some sort of pen that has different colors or a couple different colored pens. We'll go over that a little bit later in the assessment portion. And then it also comes with this testing kit, and inside of this testing kit are different supplies that you'll need when testing the student. There's things such as blocks, a rubber ducky, some manipulatives, crayons. We've got like a rattle and little stacking cups and scissors, things like this that you're going to need when testing the student. This portion of this video is going to talk about how to give the assessment itself. Now, the biggest thing that you're going to need is this guy and the record book and your pencil for the assessment. A lot of these assessments, especially if you're doing them with the younger children, is going to be asking the parents a lot of questions. So if there's a way that you can interview the parents or send home some of the questions to the parents, a lot of these things the students aren't going to know. Things such as when the students started to sit up first, different things like that. And then also if you're testing a child or assessing a child that's under the age of like 2 and you're going to be working with them, it's going to be a lot of stuff that you're going to need the parents to be there. They are under the age of 2, so it would be most likely that the parents would be there. But it's a lot of questioning of the parents until you get into the math and literacy skills. So what you're going to want to do to really set this up, especially if you're using it with the kindergartner, is you want them to be seated across the table from you. Kind of like you guys are viewing this is what a student would be looking at. So you're going to need to flip this test book so that the student is looking at it like this. So you really want the book to be facing the student, and you're going to want this at kind of a slant so you can still see it, but the student is seeing it mostly, especially for when you're doing inventory such as this one. So you're looking at it like the student, and you can see the pictures. Now I've raised the book up so you can see the pictures, but the student would be looking at it, and they would just be looking at it like this. So it would be right across from them, and you can see it, and you have the questions on your side, the student has the pictures on their side. So with the Brigance, especially with the fine and the gross motor skills, and some of the other assessments such as language development, and the one that's right before this where you're looking at physical development, it's a lot of observation, but you also have the choice to do some performance. Now, if you're doing an observation, you're going to have to go and watch the student. You're going to take your record book with you and kind of look at things. Okay, if they're doing something, you're going to circle it. So the first assessment you do, you're going to want to do it in a pencil. So you're going to circle it if the student can do it. Now, when you're doing a performance, you're going to be with the student. So for the purpose of this video, since we're doing, you guys are going to be my student, you guys are going to do the performance-based assessment. So I'm looking at the one that goes for jumping. So we're looking at some gross motor skills. So when starting an assessment, especially this one like jumping, you're going to want to turn to the proper page in your record book. So this is test B5. It's going to be this one right here for jumping. And then you're going to ask them, because we're doing a performance-based assessment, you're going to ask them, okay, I want you to jump with both feet like this. And then you're going to demonstrate how you would jump on both feet. So you'll stand up and jump on both feet with your one hand being held. And then you're going to ask the student to do this. If the student can do this, you're going to circle the number 1, just like this. So you're going to circle that guy right there. And then you would move to number 2, and so on and so forth until you get to a point where they can't do it. And then you're going to stop and move on to the next assessment. So the previous assessment was something that you would do more physical. You're testing their gross motor skills, their fine motor skills, things like that. So you go through those assessments, and then you'll start to get into the academic and cognitive, and you'll start getting into the mathematics and things like that. So with the mathematics and the literacy, you're going to have to do that performance-based. All right, so now we're going to look at some of the more academic aspects of this test. So we're going to look at this section, which is the academic cognitive literacy. Now, the first part of both of these tests are things that it's going to be an interview. So you're going to need to interview the parents. So they'll have the questions in this book, and then it will also have a sheet in the record book where you're going to circle things with the depending on the question. So let's look at number 1. So if I was sitting across from the parent as a teacher, I would say, when held on a lap with the head supported, does Johnny look at photographs for a few seconds? And then if they say yes, then you would go ahead and circle that number 1. Then you would move on to number 2. When held with head supported, does Johnny try to steady his or her head in order to look at brightly colored pictures? If they said yes, you would go ahead and circle number 2. So now I want to show you what this looks like. So we've got number 1, number 2, R. Keep going and circle as many as you can. And then you would leave it, and this is what you're going to come back to when you're assessing the student. So for this purpose of this video, we're going to look at the first part of the performance part for the literacy. It's visual discrimination, forms in uppercase letters. So you're going to be seeing if the student can discriminate which one is different. So we're going to place our finger as the teacher, and you're going to be my student. So one of the pictures in this box is different. Put your finger on the picture that is different. Now, if the student points to this cat, then you're going to say, these are cats. And then you're going to point to the bird. This is a bird. It is different. And then you're going to ask the student which one is different, and they're going to point to the one that is different. Now, if your student got it correct the first time, you would move on to the second box, so on and so forth, all the way through. And while this is happening, you as the teacher are in your performance book, circling what you get right so that you can come back at the end of the assessment to see how the student did. Now, one of the great features of this test is that, so if we're working on printing lowercase letters, dictated, so I'm telling the student which letters to print and they're printing it. After you go through this, if this is something that you think my student needs an IEP goal for, it's right here. It gives you a basic outline for an IEP. Milestone skills are broken up by age level, and this is what's going to be your supplement in this test book. There's not another supplemental test or anything like that. This development age level and these milestones are going to be what your supplemental material is. So you can go and look at the developmental age level of that student and look at the milestones they should have been reaching or the milestones they have reached. And then you can kind of assess the student from there. Have they reached their milestones? Did they reach the milestones for the year before? Where are they in these milestones? So this is what your supplemental material is going to be. Your record book in front of you. So you've got your record book. And in here, you have your date that you did it, your first assessment date. So this is going to be where you've used your pencil. So we're going to use today's date. So you've got your 10/19, and you've got your examiner. So that's going to be your name. And then it has some other questions. It has approaches to learning tracking chart. Did you complete that? Were they of good hearing, of good vision? So you're going to circle yes or no. And then this is where that multicolored pen comes into place. Now let me show you in this record book. It gives you the colors that should be used. So pencil was the first one, and next one is blue. So this allows you to go back within this book and really look, okay, this is where I want to see my child. So you can use this book all the way up to the 6th assessment. After you've filled out this front page and you've done the assessment with the student, you can go back through and look at all of the ones you've circled. And this is the information that your student already knows. Then you're going to look back at this first page. You're going to see that the next assessment you'll be doing in blue. So you'll want to take your multicolored pen and find the blue, and then you're going to underline some ones that you definitely want your student to know for the next time you've assessed. So you've gone through and underlined them in the blue of what you want your student to know the next time you assess. And then when you assess the next time, if your student knows this information, you would then circle it in the blue so that you know what your goals were and then that you've accomplished your goals the next time you assess the student. Using the information from the circles of scoring the assessment and the underlines for what you want the student to know next time, you can go back through and see what their present level of performance is, and it can also help you write IEPs for their next goal. That's everything you need to know for the Brugance Inventory of Early Development 2. Just remember, this is not a standardized test, so it's not going to be with any of your Common Core standards or standards previously used. And also just remember, it's going to take interview, observation, and performance to be able to test the students.